Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King. And today I've got a little bit of everything, a little bit of a mishmash. We're going to start with a store visit. But it was kind of a short store visit, so it was more like a half visit. As a result, I didn't get a lot of stuff there. So after I do the store visit stuff, I'm going to show you some other comics and cool things that I've gotten here and there over the last little bit. But the comic book store is called Merrymac Comics and Games. It's in Merrimack, New Hampshire. Now, it's about 10-15 minutes south of Manchester, New Hampshire. My wife and I were up in Manchester. You may remember, if you've seen my previous videos, that a couple years ago, we spent a week up in New Hampshire just going to comic book stores. And so we've been to comic stores all over that area. But for whatever reason, we didn't get to Merrymac Comics and Games when we were on that trip. So we remedied that this time. Now, you also may, if you've seen my previous videos, you may be aware that recently I haven't really been able to get much video inside the stores. I don't have anything outside the store this time either. It's just everything's been really busy. I don't like to take video inside stores when there's a lot of people, because then we start to have issues with, like, I don't want to put videos of random strangers online, and it's much easier when the store is empty, but that just hasn't been the case recently, so I don't have any video inside. But I can tell you this, it's a small store, but it's absolutely jammed with stuff. There's basically two rooms. The front room has the new comics, and it's got tons of trading cards. It's got like sports cards, like baseball cards and all sorts of things. And it's got role-playing games. It's absolutely piled with stuff. The back room has a small gaming area. There's a bunch of people playing, probably Magic the Gathering or something while we were there. They also have a small back issue area. One side of that is back issues that are bagged and boarded and priced. The other side, it's dollar bin books. So, of course, I did take some looks at the new books just to see if they happen to have like an issue of Santos Sisters or something I was missing. I didn't see anything in the new books I needed. Took a quick look through the back issue section. Didn't really see anything I needed there. But I love the dollar bins. And one thing that I do, and this isn't exactly like the greatest tip of all time, but if you look at dollar bins, you can almost immediately tell the age of the comic based on just what the color of the paper is. If it starts to get more yellowy, or even if it's not yellowed, there's just a different tone to the newsstand as opposed to newer comics. So I can usually look at the dollar bin and tell which parts I want to look at, because I'm only looking for the older stuff. So I can skip large sections that are all like the newer stuff. So I quickly look through, and I'm always trying to find stuff from the 70s in these dollar bins, and I did find a small handful of things. Went through the dollar bins. There's a few things that I left behind, but let me just show you what I got. Just 5 comics this time out of the dollar bin. This was the newest of the things I got. It's from 1990. It's interesting that it says it's from Adventure Comics, a division of Malibu. So this is before Malibu was really using the big Malibu logo, I guess, because it's from Adventure Comics. But it's the first issue of Merlin, which is some kind of fantasy series, obviously. So that's interesting to me anyway. The other stuff I got is all from the 70s. So first of all, we have this. Is Beyond the Grave #5. Charlton Horror. It's got a cool cover. It's really toasty. But Charlton was notorious for having like the worst page quality in comics. So a lot of their comics, they tend to get tan faster than the Marvels and DCs. So there's no surprise there. So pick that up. I don't really collect horror that much, but I do have soft spot for interesting 70s covers. I actually got one comic that I needed from my checklist. I'm more than halfway through this, almost entirely out of dollar bins, other than issue 1, which itself was only $5. But it's Archie at Riverdale High. This is issue 16. So I'm looking forward to reading these. To be honest, I haven't read a lot of these stories from Riverdale High, but once I finish the run, I'm gonna read through them all. And like I said, I'm about a little more than halfway through. At some point, I need to organize my Riverdale High run because I do pick up a lot of these from dollar bins, and I'm almost certain my checklist is completely out of date. So I may even already have a copy of this, but I'm excited to get that, chipping away at it. Here's a book that I already had a copy of, but recently I got rid of a lot of my horror stuff, and particularly a big lot of issues of Phantom Stranger. I love the character, the series not so much, but I kept a couple individual issues that had really cool covers. I still have my copy of Showcase number 80, the first appearance of the Silver Age Phantom Stranger, but I got rid of the rest of them until now, where I picked up the last issue of the series. It's Phantom Stranger number 41. I think they had one other issue of Phantom Stranger, but it was really beat up. I mean, this isn't in great shape either. It's got a little tear up here at the top. But for a buck, again, getting these comics, this is from 1976. I'm not a fan of Dead Man, but whatever. So anyway, there's final issue of Phantom Stranger, so that's cool. And then finally, this is really cool. You don't see these quite as much just because it didn't sell very well at the time. And they're not really worth anything, but it's always cool. It's Freedom Fighters number 6. The original concept of the series, great, and then they just got weird with it, and it became kind of dumb. Because originally it was set in an alternate Earth where the Nazis won World War II. So all of the quality superheroes were basically part of an underground rebellion after America had been conquered by the Nazis. So Uncle Sam was leading this resistance group, right? That's a cool concept. But then just a few issues into it, it wasn't selling very well, I guess. So then they crossed over into Earth 1. And for some reason on Earth 1, they thought that they were criminals. And so they were being hunted down, even though they were good guys on an Earth, on just a regular DC universe. It just, I don't know, it got stupid. But it's still a cool series that I kind of wish had been done better, because I think it could have been way more interesting than it actually was. But it's cool to always see these. This is issue 6 from 1977. So there we go. Freedom Fighters number 6. Now, I mentioned that is sort of an abbreviated visit. That's all I ended up getting. We were on a time because we were going to meet somebody. So I only had 15 minutes there. And just as I was finishing going through the dollar bins, so as all the long boxes for the dollar bins are all on one side of the table, like I said, there's 2 drawers underneath them. So the rest of the table underneath has drawers. Just as I was about to leave, I opened one of those drawers, and guess what? More dollar bins. So there was actually 3 times as many dollar bins as I thought there were. I only went through the ones on the top, but there were, again, that many twice. Another 2 whole levels more of more dollar bin books. So I only got through a third of the dollar bins. Otherwise, I would definitely have ended up with a much bigger pile of stuff. So that's a place that's on my mental, to make a mental note to check back in there sometime. It's about a 45-minute drive for me. So I don't know when the next time is I'll be going up to New Hampshire, but next time I'm up in the area, I'll have to check it out, because it's definitely worth a little more time than I had there. So that's what I got on the store visit. I definitely recommend everyone checking it out. But I do have a few other things to show you. Since there wasn't that much to do, I thought I'd show you a couple other things that have come in. Starting with a couple Kickstarter books that have come in. So first of all, I want to show this. It's the Evander's Theory number 2 from CL Zeno. And he's been a really big supporter of my comics, Crime Busters, and particularly Quest. So I always want to make sure to support other indie creators, particularly ones that have been supporting me. They're sort of, we all lift each other up. So I've previously gotten Evander's Theory number 1. So it's always cool to get, more issues. A lot of creators get into comics, that love comics, that want to do it. It's really hard. It's hard to make. It's hard to fund. It's hard to print. It's hard to distribute. So a lot of times you'll see people get one issue out and then they'll be like, that was too much. So it's great to see second issues. And I know that CL Zeno, he's got a project out right now that's sort of an anthology book. So I think someone else is like technically printing it, but he's one of the driving forces in it. I just backed that on Kickstarter today. So it's cool to get this. I haven't had a chance to dig into it, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And I also got from Kickstarter first issue of Pack Rat and Thunder Bunny, which are these two characters here. And you can see they've each got I've got came with a bunch of swag, including bookmarks. So this is the Pack Rat character. This is Thunder Bunny. And the story here is these two are basically the alter egos of the two creators who are like best friends, lifelong best friends who love comics, and they always wanted to get into comics. And now they're about my age, and they're finally following their dreams. So again, very passionate. The guy that was running the Kickstarter is one of the creators, John Fletcher Pasquini. He's very passionate and excited about comics, and those are the people you want to really support. Is the people that really you can just tell they love the comics. So I was happy to get this and support him and pick this up. So really excited for that. And finally, I had a chance over the weekend to play Dungeons and Dragons. It wasn't actually Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, we were using a different system. We were using a system called Knave, but I should be calling them tabletop RPGs, but I think of pretty much all role-playing games, I just call them Dungeons and Dragons. Like old people do. Anyway, so in person for the first time in a long time. It's been quite a while since the pandemic. We've been doing everything like on Zoom and stuff, but my friend Matt, who is my dungeon master, we've been playing together since high school, since college, so it's been over 30 years. And he also helps me with my comic quest. When I do the fantasy comic quest, I have the RPG edition that has a module in it, so you can play through the story from the comic. He helps me with that, so he's the guy that does the modules for me. So I went down to play with him, and he surprised me with a birthday present that was really cool. It's 3 issues of Dragon magazine from the time period when I was reading Dragon magazine, which was the 80s. So let me show you these in numerical order, starting with issue 79. I'm going to come back to this one in a minute. This is from 1983. This is right around the time I was reading Dragon. Now, I started comics in 84, and I have a lot of memories of when I was starting to read comics. I remember buying Dragon magazine at the same places around the same time. So like I go to the newsstand where I get my comics, I get Dragon magazine. I go to Walden Books to get comics, I get Dragon magazine. But I think I was reading Dragon before I got into comics, because I started playing D&D in 1980. So I think by 83, 84, I was already I was buying modules, I was buying Dragon. So I don't remember specifically if I had this issue or not, but it's very possible. This one's from 86. It's issue 108. Now, these are covers by Elmore. So, like, Larry Elmore, obviously a famous fantasy cover artist. By 86, I don't know if I was still buying Dragon magazine. The issue, I don't remember specific covers or anything specific about the Dragon I bought, although I think one of them might have had a chessboard on the cover. That's all I can remember. But I remember the issue numbers being sort of in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I don't know if I was still buying this by this point. However, one thing that I do remember is that Elmore, in addition to doing these fantasy covers that he's famous for all the different fantasy novels and different things, is that he actually did an ongoing comic strip in here called Snarf Quest. And that I very much remember reading. In fact, here's a Snarf Quest cover that he did. This is definitely after I had stopped reading Dragon magazine, but it's from 1988. So here is an Elmore Snarf Quest cover. You can see the woman from the strip has a very 80s sort of look to her. But a really great sort of slice of nostalgia for me. Haven't really had a chance to read them, but I did want to mention, I briefly looked through 79, and there's something really cool in issue 79. It's a module for the game Top Secret, which was a tabletop RPG where you played as secret agents. So like it was basically a James Bond version of Dungeons and Dragons. And this module is called Wacko World, and is basically there's like an organization that they call Hydra, which is basically their version of Spectre. It's like the evil organization that's running things that you have to infiltrate, and their headquarters is Disney World, basically, but it's called Wacko World. So it's even got a map of the theme park, which I love. So at some point I need to do a whole video about this. Tell me if you want me to do this video. But there's something that I absolutely love is dystopian theme parks. In the 1970s and going into the early 80s, because this is 83, there's so many dystopian theme parks in movies and TV shows and comic books in particular. There's all these stories with dystopian theme parks. And I have some theories about why that was such a big sort of metaphor in the 1970s. But, you know, just like, I think probably the most famous is if you read the original Saber graphic novel, which I think was 78. That takes place in a dystopian theme park. The one that's very obviously Walt Disney World. Like it's, like to the point of potential lawsuit, like obviously Disney World. But there's a bunch of them. Like there are a bunch of things. I think starting with Westworld, I think, which was in 72, if I remember, it just kicked off this whole thing, and I love them. So this was great. When I saw the Wacko World with a dystopian evil version of Disney World, that's a secret headquarters of the enemy spy agency, perfect, right up my alley. So I was really excited to get these. So thank you, Matt, for that. And for these great Elmore covers. Obviously, I particularly like this one here. And I'm looking forward to looking through these once I have more of a chance. There's also, I did briefly flip through them. And in this one, I think, flip through it real quick, but there's some supplement stuff in the back for the Marvel role-playing game that had come out in the 80s. And in this issue, they have in the back, I should show this because I think some of you will find it cool. It has the like character stats and character sheets for the comedy sort of versions of the X-Men that appeared first in X-Men 153 and then in the Nightcrawler limited series. So like there's the Bamfs, which are the little versions of Nightcrawler, and then Mean, the Fiend with No Name, which is like the version of Wolverine from that story. So it's got all the stats for all the characters. Lockheed, the giant dragon version of Lockheed. Like, anyway, a lot of fun stuff in these. So I'm really looking forward to digging in them deeper when I have a chance. But that's it for now. Let me know what you think of these. And I'll see you next time.